Happy day, whatever day it is that you're watching the video. And I hope you are being productive and finding purpose in the day. Right? It's all about that. It's getting up, starting the day not with problems, but with passion. So I'm playing this song in the background. Is a song by the late Sam Cooke. And said a change is going to come. Great song. In fact, Barack Obama used it in his inauguration celebration, and many people use it, right? And it's about transition, it's about opportunity, and about recognizing that even if you're in a current situation, something will change. So, my title today of the ingredient inspiration is Your Story is Not Over Yet. I've been watching biographies, and I watched the biography of Sam Cooke, kind of a tragic ending there to his life. I also watched the biography of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in a South African prison. You may have heard me talk about that on some of the podcast shows. I'm wiping my hand because I scratched myself and now it's bleeding, trying to keep it stopping. So I talked to him on a couple of about him on a podcast show, and just his ability to stay up. But yesterday I was watching the story of Muhammad Ali, arguably one of the greatest boxers. You know, depending on when you grow up, you could make that argument. Rocky Marciano, Jack Jones, George Foreman, so many of them. But Muhammad Ali really does probably stand out for different reasons. So sometimes in life, the first chapter of your relationship, opportunity, even business, or if you grew up like I did, first half of life was not fun, very dysfunctional, very broken, and couldn't imagine that the rest of my life would be like that. And so when you look at the story of Muhammad Ali, he came out as this young boxer with a lot of potential. He was discovered by a trainer, made part of the team, and he really started in boxing more by accident. It wasn't like this was his call or mission, or it was really because he was trying to learn how to beat up the guy who had stole his bicycle as a kid. That's really how he got into boxing, because he went into where they were training fighters. And so he became great. I mean, he won the gold medal, but then this issue of the draft came up. And as a result of his choice not to enlist and refuse to draft, he was stripped. He was stripped of his titles. And so for a lot of people, see, it's great. Here's the thing about stories. A story is much easier when you know the ending, right? Because most of you would say to me, well, why are you telling us that? We already know the end of the story. We know he gets his title back and he goes on and he becomes the greatest. Here's the deal about stories. He didn't know that. He didn't know that when he was stripped and threatened to be sentenced to prison, that he was going to get his title back. He didn't know that. We know it because we have after effect. We have, right, the knowledge afterwards. But while he was going through that, he didn't know. You may be going through a situation right now that you don't know how it's going to end. You hope it ends a certain way, right? Maybe it's a financial situation. Maybe it's a relationship situation. Maybe it's a business situation, business partnership that's breaking up. You don't know how it's going to go. You might think you know, or how you would like for it, but it doesn't always go that way. Muhammad Ali could have thought he knew how it would end. Okay, if that's too simple of an example, let's look at Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life in prison, right, for being a terrorist against his nation. Life, no parole. He spent 13 years working in a lime quarry, breaking big rocks into little rocks. They show a scene of it in his biography. He had no guarantee. We know it now that he went on to get out and become the president of South Africa. But he didn't know that. He did not know he was going to be let out of that prison in 1991 and that he would resume his leadership role in the ANC and ultimately be elected president of South Africa. He did not know that. So he did not know how his story was going to end. There are times in life we didn't know. When I was 18 and then 28 years old, I did not know I'd be sitting here even doing this today. There were such big threats in my life, such big mistakes that I made, such things that were going on. I didn't even know if I'd make it. I did not know if I would see 30 years old. And so there are times in your life where you have to just step back and say, my story is not over. Yeah, I may have gotten fired from the job. My story's not over. I may have gone through a divorce. My story's not over. I may have filed bankruptcy. My story's not over. Because that's when you have to remember it. When you get a bad report, the doctor says, hey, you got this disease, right? Or you have had a tragic loss in your family and you think, this is it. This is it. Done. Muhammad Ali could have said, called jacks on his career. He could have said, I'm done. Had a good run. I'm done. You know, sometimes I feel like people try to tell me is, hey, why are you trying so hard? You already had a good run. You already had some success. Give it a rest. Why are you trying to keep going higher and higher? Well, if that drive is in you and that passion is in you, that's what you do. So how do you know your story is not over, right? Number one is you get up every day. If you can get up every day, then you have a shot. There's an old saying that says you must be present to win. If you can get up every day and find a way to keep going, your story is not over. Muhammad Ali found a way to get up every day and go out. He talked to students. He visited universities. He kept doing interviews. He fought in little non-sanctioned fights. He kept moving forward. That's how you know your story is not over, is because you keep moving forward. Number two ingredient, how you know your story is not over, is people keep supporting you, right? Even through your failure, even through the mistakes, look around. Think about who's still in your corner. Who's still saying that they believe in you? Who's still saying we'll support you, right? Who's giving you a meal? Who's giving you a handout? Who's giving you a ride? Who's giving you support? If you got that, that means your story is not over yet. Winnie Mandela stood by Nelson Mandela for 27 years. I still have trying to fathom that. 27 years, she remained his wife. She remained faithful to that movement. She remained supportive to him. That was an indication his story wasn't over because his movement was still alive. Even though he wasn't there and he wasn't able to participate, the movement was still alive. What has stopped in your life that is making you believe that your story is over? Has somebody pointed a finger at you and said you're washed up, you're too old, you're too black, you're too white, you're too female, you're too male, you're too this, you're only this, or you're only that? What's making you believe that your story is over? If you can get up every day, your story's not over. If you can still rally support, your story is not over. And lastly, if you can still dream, if you can still believe. Muhammad Ali believed that he would step in that ring again, he would be champion. Nelson Mandela, even though there was no legal promise, believed that he still had hope. He had one little window that he looked out of to see the sun. It was enough to give him hope. Writing letters to Winnie Mandela gave him hope. Find your hope. Find your hope. Maybe it's just to journal your life. Maybe it's just to write things down, right? I wouldn't use social media so much as that, but maybe private writings and descriptions of what you like to do. So bottom line is your story is not over. I don't know you personally, but I know life and I know champions. I know fight. And I know if you stay in the fight and if you get up every day with that will to fight, something will break for you. And that's what you look for. Something broke for Muhammad Ali. The Supreme Court decided that he could be a conscientious objector and that he had the right to not enlist. Boom, 8-0 victory for him. KO, we would call it, Supreme Court knockout was the headline, and he was back in business. And when he went on to fight some of his greatest fights in history that we remember him today. We don't remember him for the younger Ali. We remember him for after he came back, the Thriller in Manila, right? Fighting Joe Foreman and Ken Norton and all those people, the losses, and then coming back and gaining the championship 3 times. Pretty amazing. So think about that. Chew on that a little bit. Again, the inspiration is, the thoughts are, they're not new. But sometimes when you're in the battle, you have to remember that you are qualified, you're trained to fight what you're doing. You have to remember that it's not over, because sometimes life will tell you that it's over. It will imply that it's over. You'll feel like it's over, but you got to remember in your heart of hearts, it ain't over. My name is Lewis Howard, and I love to inspire people. I'll see you again on another edition of Inspirational Recipes for the Soul.